It's a wonderful Friday morning, and you welcome once again to our Shifting series. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where in the world you are joining us from. My name is Princess Ewina Indum, and I am the coordinator for American Kana at Boba at Mobile Web Ghana. American Spaces provides access to current and reliable information about the United States through its book collections, internet access, events, and activities for everyone. Today, we are discussing a very important topic, which is gender-based violence and the law. Facilitating this discussion is the Assistant Commissioner of Police of the Ghana Police Service in the person of Owusu Treme. ACP Owusu Treme is presently the Director of the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit of the Ghana Police Service. Prior to her appointment in 2017, she was a regional coordinator of DOFSU for Greater Accra for 10 years, serving as a one-time executive secretary to former Inspector General of Police Nana Owusu Nsia ACP. ACP Treme, became the first female police officer to have held a command position in the action unit of the Ghana Police Service as second in command of the Buffalo unit, Tema. Her role as the special assistant to the Deputy Special Representative to Secretary General for the Rule of Law in Liberia made her the first police officer and a person of color within the UN to have held that position. She is a lawyer by profession with specialty in women and children's rights. Also, she's a Chevron Award winner 2018-2019 with academic excellence from University of Cape Coast, University of Ghana, Queen Mary University of London, and University of London in the UK. In her commitment to mitigate SGBV and ensure the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women and children, she spearheaded the establishment of a one-stop center at DOFSU to respond to domestic violence cases. So this was a brief profile of our facilitator today. Thank you again for joining us this morning. During the session, please type all your comments or questions in the comments box below and they will be addressed. Now I'll hand it over to ACP Owusu Treme. Good morning, madam.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
You're most welcome. So please, madam, you can go ahead and share your presentation.
Okay. So just give me a few minutes as I share the screen.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much for having me. So as Princess earlier on stated, the topic is gender-based violence and the law. Now, the presentation outline would deal with the following: introduction, definition of gender-based violence. We also take at some of the international laws that Ghana is a signatory to, and national laws, then we draw a conclusion. So by way of introduction, gender-based violence is a human rights violation. Gender-based violence is a human rights violation, and it disproportionately affects women and girls. It disproportionately affects women and children. It cuts across cultures, religions, classes, societies, and continents. Even though gender-based violence can be experienced or any person can be affected, women and children are more disproportionately. It cuts across cultures, religions, classes, societies, and continents. It has numerous negative effects on the individual. So individuals who suffer, but at the end of the day, you have family members also indirectly being impacted on the victim.
All right, so wait for Madam to get back online. I want to welcome us once again on our Shifting Blame series. And so want to know where you are joining us from, and let us also know your thoughts on the status of gender-based violence. Do you know anyone who has been victimized before, and was it amicably addressed? And so before we continue with the session, I'd also want to introduce us to an amazing resource, and this is the eLibrary USA. And so the eLibrary USA is a state-of-the-art digital library. It has a lot of resources on board that you can use. And so you have research documents. You also have materials that can help you in your studies as a student. And so usually this amazing resource is available in person at the American Canal before the COVID, sorry. But now due to the COVID pandemic, we are opening up access to anyone who wants to have this amazing resource. And so if you are interested in this resource, you can sign up through the link that will be shared in the comments box, and you can have access to this amazing resource. So I want to know where you are joining us from, and kindly type that in the comment section. You can join us from Accra, from the Ashanti region, from the Ahafo region, wherever you are joining us from, let us know, and we'll gladly give a mention to you and acknowledge you for joining us this morning. So as we wait for ACP Chairman to join us, we want to know about gender-based violence. Do you know any of do you know the laws regarding safeguarding gender-based violence? Do you want to share any thoughts with us? Okay, thank you guys for joining us. So I see Wendy Anderson connecting from the Ashanti region. Thank you, Wendy. Thanks for joining us. Do you have any thoughts about gender-based violence and the law? Do you want to share something with us? Let us know what you're regarding this topic, gender-based violence and the law. Okay, thank you, Nadia, for joining us. Do you also want to add on to this topic, gender-based violence and the law? So if you are new here on today's program, I want to entreat us that this program Shifting Blame series happens every month, and so you should follow us here on the US Embassy Ghana on YouTube to stay abreast of more programs regarding Shifting Blame series, women empowerment, and all that has to do with advocating against gender-based violence.
Thank you very much. My apologies, it was a technical issue. So we continue from the gender-based violence is a human rights violation. It disproportionately affects women and children. It cuts across cultures, religions, classes, societies, and continents. It has numerous negative effects on the individual, the family, and community. It negatively impacts on the economy, government expenditure on health, wealth creation, and business. Increasingly, the elimination of gender-based violence has become of great concern to the international community and governments across the world. According to the UN, 1 in 3 women suffer gender-based violence in Africa. The Sustainable Development Goals includes targets to eliminate all forms of violence against. So, definition of gender-based violence. Gender-based violence is a social construct, and it is a violence that is directed at the result of one's gender. It is a human rights violation, deeply rooted in discriminatory cultural beliefs and attitudes that perpetuate inequality and powerlessness, in particular of women and girls. There are certain factors that exposes one to, or what it makes one more vulnerable to being abused. Some of these factors are poverty, lack of education, livelihood opportunities, and impunity for crime and abuse may also contribute to the culture of violence and discrimination. It is very important to state here that though some of the characteristics that could lead somebody being abused poverty and lack of education, it doesn't mean that it is cast in stones. There are people who are well educated and affluent in society, and yet they are exposed to abuse. So we look at gender. When we talk about gender, what are we really talking about? So gender simply refers to the socially constructed relations between men and women. So gender is socially determined by culture, culture-specific include time. In terms of when we talk about sex, we are referring to the biological characteristics define humans as female and female or male. So sex is biologically determined by birth, universal, and it's unchanging. So we look at the 6 elements of a gender perspective. Gender, it's about the social rules and relations between men and women, including who does what work and how decisions are made. It's not about biological difference. So for instance, I just give an example. So in society traditionally, our parents would say a woman's place is in the kitchen. So this is how people have been trained over the years. So if you are a married woman, for instance, you are unable to, you could suffer gender-based violence as a result of the role the society. Traditionally, it's men who are supposed to take care of the home. So if you are a man and for one reason or the other, you don't have a job, you are not able to take care of your home for anything, you suffer gender-based violence as a result of what society expects. That it's your responsibility to take care of the home. We are saying that gender also varies over time and cuts across cultures. So different cultures have their own perception about the rules and relations. Gender is also multidimensional, influencing economic, political, social, and social interactions and needs. Understanding gender also involves understanding power and how it is used and shared. Gender also includes the assumptions from obligations about men and women. It is also institutionalized and enacted at the level of the family, the community. So issues of gender can be found across board, the family settings and the field. So these are some of the forms of gender-based violence: physical abuse, verbal abuse, psychological abuse, sexual abuse, economic harassment. It could also be sexual harassment, domestic violence, and FGM. So viewers' questions. I think I'm running. Viewer discretion advice. Thank you. So these are some of the pictures that we took at DOFSU. This is some events as a parent was punished in the crowd, and this is the results. And we have this one too. And this is acid attack. And unfortunately, with this attack, somebody also, the person and got her impregnated, and so she ended up in this pregnant, and we couldn't find the person who. So some data, you can look at 2016 data representation from on defilement. So in 2016 it was 719, 790. 2018 it came down to 67. 2019 it went very high, unfortunately, and 2020 it came down, even though it is still high. So we have some of the offenses that rape in 2016. The number reported to DOFSU was 407. In 2017 it was 509, 2018 580, 2019 504, and 518. And defilement cases 1,351. We have 1,686 in 2017, 1,889 fortunately, it came down in 2019, 1,289, and in 2020, 1,000 assault cases are 6,500, and 5,000. So data for 2019, the year 2019, 2018 is 9,390. 2019, we collected 1,800. 18,629, and 2020 we had 16,586. So there was a reduction in 2020. So before we go on to look at the national laws, it's very important that we take a look at the national laws that Ghana is. We've listed those that are important here. We have a Universal Declaration on Human Rights, which lays out the rights and principles of equality, security, liberty, integrity of all people, including. So this is a declaration. It is not enforceable, and it sets standards for countries to adapt their laws to actualize the aspirations. Then we have the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex and inhuman or degrading treatment. And then we have the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights that also preserves the economic, social, and cultural rights of all. Now, the thing about these international treaties are binding is that they did not specifically address violence against women. So there were some agitation from different feminist across the world. It led to the adoption of the Convention on the Elimination of All by the UN. Unfortunately, this convention, which is the major convention on women that talks about women's rights and pushes for women, did not specifically tackle the issue of violence against women. However, in their recommendation 19, the committee now addressed the issue of violence against women, and for the first time, that document, even though it's not binding, but it's more of like a folklore which NGOs and other stakeholders of government to adapt their content. So the Convention on the Elimination of Persons has an organizational protocol which allows state citizens from states who are signatories or protocol to file a complaint when they have exhausted the yes, within their system. And then we have the UN Declaration on Violence Against. In this document was the first time that the marital rape was recognized as a violation. And also gender-based violence was recognized in these documents as a human rights violation. We have the Beijing Declaration as well. So at the regional level, we have the Maputo Protocol that also promotes gender-based violence and guarantees women's rights to life, integrity, speech, to purpose. The protocol also addresses violence against women and establishes legal obligations. So, these are the national laws. These are the national laws. The 1992 Constitution is definitely the supreme law of the land, and Chapter 5 is of interest to us. We have these are the laws that deal with gender-based violence. So, the Criminal Offences Act 1969, Domestic Violence Act 2000. One Trafficking Act 2005, Children's Act 1998, the Interstate NDC Law 111, and then the Customary Marriage and Divorce Registration. There are some policies, gender and children's policies. So we look at the Chapter 5 of the 1990 guarantees fundamental human rights for that's Article 12 everybody is entitled to fundamental human rights, irrespective of race, place of origin, political opinion, color, religion, or gender. So the right to enjoy our human rights, fundamental human rights, is enshrined in the Constitution. And Article 15 talks about respect for human dignity. And normally, when you look at gender-based violence, it has to do with the violation of the individual. Article 16 talks about protection from slavery. And Article 17 talks about the division of discrimination of persons on the basis of race. Article 22 talks about the property rights of spouses. 26.2 plus 2, all customary practices which dehumanize or are injurious to the physical and mental well-being of the person are prohibited. So we take a look at the Criminal Offences Act. So the Criminal Offences Act prohibits certain sexual offences and certain acts as criminal. Some of them are the Section 69A on female circumcision. It also criminalizes cruel custom in relation to big spouses, which is the misdemeanor. And so for female circumcision, people in who are found a term of sentenced to a term of and not less than 3 years and not more. So Section 1 also prohibits violence, which is a child under 16 years old. If you with or without consent, the 16-year-old cannot give consent to having sex. Under 16, the 16 years can give consent, but below 16 years, you cannot give consent to sex. And if a person is convicted, the person could go in but they're not less than 7 years and not. And then we have carnal knowledge, all sexual offences, also sexual violence of the child on his premises, compulsion of marriage is criminalized under the Act 21, 109 criminalizes it, and on conviction, 1 can do it a year. And then prohibition of customary servitude, like for instance the trokushi, and on conviction, you could the person to do. And Section 442 of the Criminal Offences Act has been repealed. The old law stated that a man could excluded married men from needing permission or consent from their wives before having sex with them. Now, the repealed law makes it criminal for a husband to force a wife to have sex. Now, in Ghana, we have marital rape, even though the marital rape is not explicit in the laws, but by the amendment of this section, it means that if you have sex with your wife without consent, you will be liable for. So we look at the domestic violence. This is the major act that solely focuses on domestic violence, domestic violence. So section 1 gives the meaning of domestic violence, which is under Article 29, that constitutes a threat or harm to a person, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional, verbal, or political abuse, harassment, sexual harassment, and any other behavior or conduct that in any way harms or may harm another person, endangers their safety, health, or well-being, undermines their privacy, integrity, or security, or detracts or is likely to distract from their dignity where as a human being within the context of the previous or existing domestic relationship. Section 3 of the Act prohibits domestic violence. So if you are found guilty of domestic violence, you could be fined up to 500 penalty units and one penalty unit 120 12 Ghana cedis, or a term of imprisonment more than 2 years or to book. All cases of domestic violence must be reported to the police. Now, Section 11, 19, 21, 20 talks about the protection order. So protection order is an order that is an applicant, a survivor can apply to the court to protect her from further abuse. And the occupation order is also an order that removes the perpetrator from the house so that the survivor can stay there. Now, if a court issues a protection order, we have interim protection order and the final protection. If a court issues a protection order and the person who is directed at contravenes that protection order, that person is liable to a fine, if found liable to a fine of not less than 5 penalty units and no more than 500 penalty units, or to a term of imprisonment not less than 1 month and not more than 2 years. So, Section 20 courts to promote it. So depending on the nature of the case, the court has power to refer parties for counseling. So if the case is presented before the court and it's a misdemeanor case, but not aggravated misdemeanor, the court has the power to refer the case to the ADR for them to arbitrate or mediate. And then the decision of the ADR will then be adopted by the court as the court also has the power to refer. The Department of Social Welfare will be brought to application for officers to monitor and report back to the court. So the Domestic Violence Regulation 2027 provides different forms for you at the various for various stakeholders, the court, the hospital, and the police. It also prescribes training for police and court officials on domestic violence in consulting with the relevant institutions. It also provides for education and counseling of victims and perpetrators of domestic violence, provide for education, counseling, and also the need for shelter for victims is also made shelter for victims in consultation with the relevant institution, provide for enhancement of social welfare services, modalities for the provision of treatment for victims, provide financial assistance to victims of domestic violence. And we look at the Children's Act. So, under the Children's Act, it's a parent's responsibility to protect the child from neglect, discrimination, violence, abuse, or physical and moral hazards and oppression. The Children's Act also prohibits or other cruel, inhuman, or treatment or punishment, including any cultural practice which dehumanizes or is injurious to the physical and mental well-being of the child. The child also has a right to refuse to be betrothed to any yes, or to be the subject of a dowry. The minimum age in Ghana for all kinds of marriage is 18 years old. If anybody contravenes anything earlier on regards to the child, is found guilty of summary conviction, final summary conviction, fine not exceeding 500 cedis, or to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 1 year or 2 years. So we look at the PNDC law 111. It also protects property rights of the spouse and the children, where the partner or the spouse died without a will. So we look at the Human Trafficking Act. The Human Trafficking Act 2005, as is my fault, means human trafficking means recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, trading, receipt of persons that cross national borders by the use of threats, force, or other forms of abduction, or deception, the abuse of power, and vulnerability, or giving or receiving payments and benefits to others. It is important for us to know that when it comes to human trafficking and all the other offenses, women are disproportionately affected as compared to men, women and children. So in terms of human trafficking, women are normally trafficked. Sometimes some of their vital organs too are removed, and there are times that they are also trafficked to go into some form of slavery. So we have a just one stop. At the one stop center, the concept of the one stop center will ensure that all the providers of services to survivor of domestic violence are all found under one roof. Here in Ghana and in most other countries, both in Europe and in Africa, we realize that all the survivor needs to support, the survivor needs their services are scattered across various locations. This includes services provision for these survivors. And so the concept of the one-stop center was adopted with the intention that we have all the facilities for the service providers and the money. So here in Ghana, the first time we have this facility, we have a Doxy One-Stop Center that we found at the in that building. We have a Doxy office in the court, we have a district court, we have a clinical psychologist, social worker, we have a temporary space where we can rescue, we have entertainment space for the people who use the shelter, we have a clinic and a healthline center. So as at November 2020, this is the state of that building. It was started in 2003, it came to a standstill in 2006. And so we went back from 20, went back to the drawing board to see how we would get by 2020, November 2020, some funds started coming in and we went back. So this is the current state of the building now. It was commissioned this year, in January. And these are some of the facilities you find there. We have a clinic with a shelter, and then the investigators room. So the good thing about this building is that it's away from the general way of taking it, where it's an open space, anybody can hear whatever you are saying. It doesn't allow people to be out family. So now we have a sample where it's one interview at a you and your lawyer, you and whoever you're comfortable with the no other person will play with us and tell us your story. I wanted to show you some
As we wait for also to continue with her presentation, I will be waiting for your comments, and we see some comments already in the chat box. And so we have also Joel tuning in from Takrady, and we have some questions over here. So we are looking forward to them being answered when Madame Owusu-Acheme is done with her presentation. Hello, Madam.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So, in conclusion, we would like to state that laws are important in eliminating gender-based violence as they provide legal protection. Law and policy do not automatically unfortunately changes. There is also the need for change on the part of individuals, changing negative traditions, beliefs, values, attitudes, practices that are deeply embedded. It is easy to change laws through advocacy and campaigns to bring about reform. However, it is more difficult to change informal social norms that are internalized by individuals. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ACP Owusu-Acheme, for a very enlightening presentation on gender-based violence and the law. And so before we go to the questions, and so if you can see on our screens, there is the toll-free number that anyone can call at any point if you have any forms of gender-based violence cases or sexual abuse cases to report. And so now, Madam, I'll head over to our YouTube page to read out the questions that have been put out from our viewers. So thank you, our viewers, for sending the questions. And so when the Addison says that it's a harmful act, and I think we should be educated at the younger stage in our lives. Nadia is saying that it's an interesting topic because the law is a primary tool in combating gender-based violence in Ghana. Elsewhere, so we hope to learn new things. I believe we are learning new things right here from Madam's presentation. Joel is saying that you say women taking advantage of the law has been set up and skewed to help women to lie and wrongfully accuse men of domestic violence and other abuses as GBV. So, Madam Treme, and this is a question that Joe wants to know. He's from the view that some women pretend to experience any form of gender-based violence. Can you please touch on this?
No, please, it's fast. I didn't hear the question. What? Yes.
Okay, so in summarizing the question, he's saying that there are some women out there who lie about being abused and they report to DOSU, and DOSU then again supports them. So in this case, does DOSU support lies from reporters of gender-based violence? And what are the procedures of ensuring that this case is really true as it's been reported?
Okay, so it is not true that DOSU supports lies from people. So what happens is that unfortunately, 99.9% of people that happen or offenses that are committed are not committed in the presence of the police. So it would be when such cases are reported, what we have to do is that we have to do, and at the end of the day, the investigations would then tell us whether the person who reported the case is lying or not. If the person is lying, then we can put that person, the complainant who came to report, that person before court for the public officer. As I'm speaking with you currently, there is a case that was reported. Some children reported a case. I'm not going to give you much details. The children reported a case of domestic violence. I'm not going to domestic violence against a parent, and they insisted, came back. It went on for a long time. Every day, different reports. The police went in and did it. It turns out that the children are lying. It turns out that the children were not telling us the truth, that the father has never abused them, if anything at all. It's the father who has been abused emotionally, psychologically, and verbally. And these children have been put before court. So it is not true that JOSU supports um, lies. In fact, the kids as it stands now have even pled guilty to lying that their father abused them. So this is just a case, but I could cite a lot, but for time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the answer. And I hope, Joel, your doubts has been clarified now. And so there's another question coming in from Hilda. And she says that the reduction in cases, would you say is a result of people not reporting the cases? I think that has to do with the slides that you shared regards to the statistics on domestic violence cases. Is that as a result of people not reporting these cases?
Okay, so across the world, everywhere, it's not everybody that reports cases. So we are unable to see the reduction is as a result of people not reporting cases. People do not report, no matter what, people do not report cases. And so if we have a reduction, we cannot say that it's as a result of people not reporting cases, that is why there is a reduction. We do a lot of collaboration with other stakeholders on public education. People are beginning to be more aware of the fact that gender-based violence or certain acts are a crime. Those days gone by, if you decide to beat your child any way you wanted because that's your child. Now people are beginning to realize that yes, you have a right to correct your child, but there's a limit to which you can do. Don't reach, it becomes an abuse. So we cannot say that the reduction is as a result of people not reporting abuse. Thank you.
Thank you to Madam for your answer. And another interesting question, what is the difference between rape and defilement?
So the difference between rape and defilement is that when it comes to defilement, it has to do with having a carnal knowledge of a child below the age of. So if you have sex, I won't break it down so everybody will understand. So when you have sex with a child that is below 16, for a child here is male or female. If you have sex with a child below the age of 16, that is defilement. And the key word here, the operative word here is, it doesn't matter whether she gave consent or he gave consent or he did not give consent. With a child below 16 years, I don't say a child below 16 years cannot give consent. So even if it's the child that came to me and said, you know what, I feel like having sex, and she undressed herself and laid down and then you accept it, the law would find you guilty as evidence to show. When it comes to rape, it has to do with having sex with a female at the end from age 16 and above. So if you have sex with a female 16 years and of age 16 years and above without her consent, that is rape. So you can have sex with a 16-year-old. The law allows a 16-year-old to have sex, but we always caution young girls that at this stage, 16 years until you are able to finish school and work, it is not good for you to engage in sexual acts. So age 16 years, yes, the law says, please go to school. So 16-year-old can decide to give consent. So if somebody reports rape to police and doing investigations, there's evidence to show that the 16-year-old gave consent to the sex, that person who has sex with them, the man who has sex with them, cannot be prosecuted because she gave legitimate consent. So that's the difference. The difference is one, defilement, the child should be below 15 years and be below 16 years. And in that situation, the issue of consent does not even come. Whether she gave consent or not, you will be found guilty if evidence shows you actually have sex with the child below. And with rape, if you have sex with people of age 16 and above, without that person's consent, that is the issue of rape. So men cannot be raped. It's only a female that can be raped. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for this new knowledge and education. And we know very well that viewers are very enlightened about this, and we are all learning something new. Another question coming in: what constitutes marital rape? Can a man be raped under such circumstances?
Okay, thank you very much. So as I indicated earlier on, here in Ghana, a man cannot be raped. If you are a man 60 years and above, you cannot be raped because the law says it's a female. Now, so in that situation, a man cannot come to police and report marital rape, but a woman can because of the definition of rape in our statute. So if we want men to be captured under that, then we need to amend our statute in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. There are so many questions coming in. And so one question coming in from Regina Samwa, the journalist covering the missing children. She's asking that, so she has three questions. So the first question is, what efforts are being made to address the gap between the age of consent for sex and age of marriage? Please write the question again. Hello, Madam. Write the question again. Please, you're on mute.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So this has to do with, this is something that the general public must, talk about, discuss, and do advocacy and campaign. If that is what we want to do, we want to address, because it has to do with the law. And individuals, if we as Ghanaians, we think that there's a discrepancy between having sex at age, being able to marry at age 18, we are not comfortable with it. What it means is that we must discuss it, reach an agreement, and then lobby through the appropriate parliament so that that discrepancy can be rectified.
Thank you, Madam. And the next question, at what point can a domestic violence case be settled out of court?
Thank you. So, as I indicated in my presentation, the Domestic Violence Act, the crime committed is a misdemeanor and not aggravated misdemeanor. So, under the law, there are certain offenses that the law terms as not. And so, when the crime that has been committed falls under those under those offenses, then there are options. One of the options is that we can go to court, the police will conduct the normal investigations, and then the parties can appeal to the court to ask them to settle the matter outside or refer the matter to the ADR for arbitration. Or the court on its own can also look at the part of the case and decide that the nature of this case, there's no need to go to that trial. Then we refer the case to the court. And then the decision of the ADR can be adopted by the court. Now, the other side too is that, for instance, if the offense committed also falls under this, depending on the nature, normally when you come to Johnson, we will normally connect you to a psychologist or a counselor to counseling. We normally during counseling at a state appointing time, the people involved are able to resolve their issue, and then they come back to the police. We've understood what went wrong, and we have resolved our issue. They are now living happy, and we want to withdraw the case, especially with the complaint. In that situation, the police will take a look at the evidence and the nature of the offense. And if we think it falls within what the law allows, we can then close that document, give the suspect a warning note, and make him aware that anytime the complainant comes back to report a similar offense or the same offense again, that we're going to take the court. So the bottom line is that if it's a simple misdemeanor that is not aggravated, you don't need to go through the court system, or you can go through the court system for branch.
Thank you very much, Madam, for the detailed answer. So another question coming in from our viewers. So what does the statistics show when it comes to men reporting gender-based violence towards them? Madam, please, you are on mute.
Okay. So when we look at the statistics, men, we don't have a lot of men reporting gender-based violence. If you take every 100 cases, you have about, let's say, 93 being women, cases reported adults, and about 7 being men. So if you look at the statistics, men do report, and some men are genuinely being abused, and they do report. But if you look at the statistics, men are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. And so we have a few minutes to end this program, but the questions keep coming in. I'll take one last question, then I'll just read some few comments. So this question, okay, so someone is asking again about marital rape, which has been addressed early on by Madam. So what is your opinion about 2.6% of women being asked for sexual favors as a means of bribery, as captured in the recent report on Ghana Integrity of Public Services Survey? I don't know, Madam, if you got the question right.
No, I didn't get the question.
So what is your opinion about 2.6% of women being asked for sexual favors as a means of bribery, as captured in the recent report on Ghana's Integrity of Public Services Survey by GSS and SHRAJ?
Okay, so I'm still not getting the question, but is it that people ask women for sex as a way of bribe? So women should bribe them with sex? Is that a question?
So I think this question is coming in from, I don't know if it's a policy or a report.
But I need to understand it. Yeah, that's women.
Yes, so it's looking at women being asked for sexual favors as a means of bribery.
Yes. And what's the question? What's my opinion?
Yes, she wants to know your
okay,
opinion
sure.
about it.
Okay, so it is wrong and unprofessional for one person, and even criminal, depending on the context. Whoever is asking for the sex actually went ahead to harass or to actually attempt or rape the person, then it also becomes an. So on all levels, morally, it is wrong, and also in terms of police, it is also an offense. Harass or ask for sex or job. It is unprofessional, it's unethical. So in such situations, the people who are being asked for sex should report to the appropriate office. The person can report to the HR of that institution where the person is demanding for sex. You could go to SHRAJ, you could go to the police, or to any NGO who is into gender-based violence issues. The person could be assisted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam, for your answer. So I'll quickly go over some comments, then we'll take your final words. So coming in from Ophelia, she says, thank you very much for this session. A lot of individuals are going through abuse, but because of their lack of understanding of it, they are not even able to identify that they are being abused. Thank you, Ophelia. Coming in from Nadia, some victims and their families or community, because they think violence is normal and not serious enough to report. Okay, and she adds on that there should be more education and advocacy as needed. Thank you, Nadia. The others are saying, thanks for a wonderful presentation. And I so much believe that we have learned a lot from this enlightening discussion. And thank you so much, Madam, for educating us on the laws and educating us even about the center where people can address their issues. And so before we wrap up, we want to take your final words, Madam.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Finally, I want to say that gender-based violence is a crime. It's no longer a private issue as we think. And so we encourage all and some men, women, children, please report. And also, neighbors, please, you also have we also encourage you to report cases of abuse. If you find out or you have information that somebody is being abused, please reach out to the person or reach out to the police so that the police or any other institution, social worker, for instance, can step in. Gender-based violence is an offense. We know that the laws are not enough, the laws alone are not enough to curb gender-based violence. That's why we are forming partnership with NCC do more education for the general public, educate the public about their rights. So at this juncture, I would encourage everybody who knows everybody going through any reach out. And please, when you go to the police station, also, please do not pay money. Do not pay any money there. If you go to the police station to report any case and anybody asks for money, please report the person to a senior officer at the police station or write officially to the Director General CID and your issue will be addressed. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, Madam, for this wonderful presentation, and thank you for the education. Also emphasizing that anyone who wants to report should do so with no charge. And thank you all so much for joining today's program. And before we finally end, I want to introduce you to an amazing resource, and this is the eLibrary USA. The eLibrary USA is the state-of-the-art digital library with 9 premier electronic databases that includes digital newspapers, magazines, journals, videos, and dissertations. And so this resource will be available to you through a link that will be shared in the comments box below. And so you can enjoy its amazing resources. And thank you all so much for staying tuned with us here on YouTube on our Shifting Blame series. This was brought to you by the US Embassy Ghana in partnership with the American Kana Agoba. Thank you all so much, and do stay updated of our subsequent programs coming up here on the US Embassy Ghana YouTube channel. You can also follow the US Embassy Ghana on its Facebook page and also on Twitter. Thank you all, and do have a wonderful day. Bye.